going?
Is streaming now, Steve. I can,
Okay.
Okay, so we should be good, I think.
We'll be all set.
Okay, so let's see, it is 7:48. We are,
Okay, so we should be good, I think.
there's the echo, okay.
Okay, so let's see, it is 7.
All right, we got that off?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It is 7:48. We're back from non-public. While in non-public, we discussed negotiations to the MOAs. We discussed a legal opinion and we discussed some personnel HR request. No votes were taken and there's not a need to seal the minutes, so. On to our regular business. On our consent agenda, we have an enrollment report on page 4. And would someone like to move to accept the enrollment report?
I make a motion to accept the enrollment report as stated.
Okay, that's Stephanie Arroyo
I'll
and the
second.
second. Shirley
second.
Glennon with the second. Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay, it looks good. So roll call through. Brian Winslow was a yes. Shane Wells,
Yes.
Stephanie Arroyo,
Yes.
Jessica Boudreau,
Yes.
Shirley Glennon.
yes.
Okay, that's the enrollment report, and we can move to the principal's report.
Oh, Mr. Robert, is Ms. Billcliff in yet?
I just let her in.
Okay. So we have a guest tonight. Mr. Wells had asked a few weeks ago for Ms. Billcliff to join us just to talk about her middle school guidance website. So I'm going to let her go first, just so she can then get on with her evening. So Ms. Billcliff, did you just want to give them a little update on what you've done and what the reception has been so far?
Yeah, do you want me to share my screen and kind of like go through it?
Sure.
All right, hold on one second. So host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Uh-oh. It says you can share.
Okay.
Uh,
Yep, it's good now.
Okay.
Can you see it?
We can see the school website.
Okay, yeah, so then you go to info, school counselors, middle school link. So I revamped a lot of it, but the newer part that people were really interested in was the chill out room. So over the summer when I was trying to find ways to help people stay connected and use resources that they can't use, like if I'm not in person with them, another school out west did something similar. So I kind of took their idea and ran with it. This is just the main page here. But so like a lot of times in middle school, especially when they're doing like tests or things like that, they'll have like different sounds playing in the background that are calming. So just ways for kids to re-regulate themselves if they're really stressed out online, like a lot of them get, just to have a lot of different things to listen to, look at, do free time, family stuff too. Like even though I work with middle school, a lot of stuff on here is appropriate for all the kids. So I thought that would be a good idea to have people do things together. So like for instance, I'll play a little clip of this one. If it works, yeah. So just things like that, like sound playing, like background noise, when a lot of kids are doing silent reading or taking tests, things like that. It's really calming for a lot of people, myself included. Another one I really liked was like deep breathing stuff, so mindfulness. And they're all embedded right in here. And like this one goes over just how to mindful breathe. So if a kid's having a rough day or they're stressed out, especially where a lot of the kids maybe don't have the support at home with an adult, just to kind of get back on track. And then for like some of the more fun stuff, like the live animal cams are really cool. One I did earlier today. Let's see, you click the picture and it goes to like the live cams. And I can't see because the pictures are on the side. Hold on. Hold on, the Zoom thing's in the way. There we go. Let's see. The camera is in the way. Hold on. There we go. But these are really cool. I went through all these and looked at them, and they were really neat. Because who doesn't want to watch animals? So that's the tiger alive right now at San Diego Zoo. Another ones too for kind of that educational piece. There's like virtual tours. You can actually go. I was playing on this one earlier. The British Museum, which I've been to, has lots of really cool, like it's a virtual timeline you can go on.
I love that. I've seen it.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. It's really interactive. It just takes a second. All right, it's going too long because we'll move on from the different one. But all different things in here, all different tours, like the Louvre's in here, all kinds of different places that you can go on, like virtual tours. Then like puzzles and games specifically, there's a lot of ones that I said are good for all ages. So this one right here has stuff for kids K through 6. Coloring and creativity. I like to color. I find that very relaxing. So like the mandalas, those are really good too to color. And then there's ones you can do right online, and then ones you can actually print out and color. So that's down there. Exercise, yoga. The purpose of some of these ones too, not just for kids to use, but like for 7th and 8th grade, we're doing the morning mashup. So some of the teachers really like to do that kind of stuff with them. So that was another option for them to do with their class to get them on the right foot to start the day off. The cooking one on here too. I love to cook. So there's ones that show you how to do different recipes, as well as why eating healthy is important. This was cool. The smartphone apps, with a little disclaimer for parents, approval first. But different apps that kids can download on their phones to help with calming. This one's sounds, this one's breathing, things like that. And then just some resources, texts and hotlines. The only other thing that was brand new, I redid my whole website, but the only thing that's like brand new is COVID-19. And I did an acoustic poem type thing. I liked it, thought it came out cool. But I inserted directly from Brain Pop a coronavirus thing, so kids can learn more about it, you know, be smart with what they're learning, take in facts and not just myths. And there's interactive video, there's quizzes, all kinds of things on it. But it goes right to the Brain Pop website that has other topics too, one on distance learning, things like that. And I think that's it. Any questions?
So I'm sure there's ways to get in touch with you during the school day. They have your email, but is there, through that website, is there a way to, I know you have the crisis hotline one, but is there like one, hey, I want to talk to my guidance counselor, I want to talk to one of my teachers, instead of like going through emails? Are there kind of like a hotline like that?
Not to my knowledge, but my email is plastered all over my website. I think I have it on like 5 different pages. And then I'm in all the 5, 6, 7, 8 Google Classrooms too. And I post on Twitter, like I have my website and my live Twitter feeds on there too. So no direct like button to email me. I don't know if that's something that could be done, but they know how to reach me too on there.
I like everything you did. It's great. I did have a question that kind of what you're saying, Nate, of Shane, about the suicide prevention hotline. Anyone is in help. I know that I saw, I think it was Northampton. They actually have on their school website and on their school counselor pages ways like I need help now, and it's a direct link to those resources, hotlines, as well as you. So there's different ways, levels that they can get help. Like I need to talk to you now. They can put in a request about what's going on. I'm in danger. Those kinds of things. They did a really nice job with it. I haven't looked at it in a long time, but I'm wondering if that might be a way to incorporate on that page that you had with some of the resources.
What's school is that again?
I think it was Northampton, and I have an email. I'll send you the letter, Nicole.
Okay.
I have a letter from the superintendent from there because they linked it to us because of no one telling what we're doing. But it was around providing that additional layer of support because kids are home and have been home so long.
Yeah.
Around the suicide prevention, and then just in general, home not always being a safe place and really needing to reach out to someone. And then it did link directly to 911, I think, too, if they needed help. But also I can find the email. I know I have it somewhere. And I think it was the Northampton High School or middle school. It might even been the district website. I can't remember. And then the second question I had was, are we doing anything with the New Hampshire Choose Love program with the social emotional learning and incorporating any of that in? Because a lot of what the strategies you're putting on your page and stuff, I know they do a lot of that kind of stuff as well. I'm just wondering if there's a way to link some of that together. I think I had heard a while back before COVID that you guys were looking at having a professional development, but I think I got canceled because of COVID. So I wasn't sure if that was ever coming to fruition as well.
Nothing that I know of as far as that particular program, but like Linda and I do a lot of our own things with stuff. And then for the Laker days, Linda and I will be working with all of our grade levels 4 days a week too. So that's really great. If you look on my website too, if you go under guidance classes, you can see some examples, some of the things that I do with the kids. So like in 7th grade, I do a segment on social justice, and then 5th grade is a lot of like group and teamwork, things like that. 8th grade is a lot of like high school and college, things like that. But no specific like program from there, but I'm always open to tweaking things and adding stuff in for sure.
Yeah, I just mentioned them again because they have so many free resources and stuff that's already developed that would be really easy for you to link into.
Yeah.
So it's just more resources for what you're already building, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, I can never have too many, so I'll take it.
Exactly.
Stephanie, I've actually been in touch with Shannon from Choose Love.
Yeah.
And her and I have kind of talked back and forth. It lost a little bit of ground just because it was later in the summer, but her and I have gone back and forth on maybe even looking into professional development or some of her resources and materials. So her and I have been in touch. So I could touch base with Nicole and Linda to kind of loop them more into what I've been talking with her.
Yeah, and I think I haven't talked with Shannon lately, but I know that because I talked to her too at the end of the summer. They do a lot of things with the kids, so I'm just wondering if there's a way to also incorporate some of the activities and things that they are building with your Laker days and things like that, because they do things at the age appropriate grade levels as well and different school-wide activities. So it's just another resource for you that I just can't talk enough about. So
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get back in touch with her and see if we can keep that going again.
yeah. But great job, Nicole. I really like the site.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go on and definitely play some of your music and stuff later and maybe watch some baby animals.
Yeah,
That kind of day.
the shark one was kind of freaky, but I liked it.
I'll have to show it to Lou. She'll love it. Thank you.
No problem.
Ms. Billcliff,
Great job,
thank
Nicole.
you very much. I think that's really creative and wonderful, and I appreciate your willing to share with the board, in public. So thank you again.
No problem, guys.
Thank
Have
you,
a good night.
Nicole.
You're welcome. Bye.
But
Okay, so moving on, I also wanted to give you an athletics update. And we could have actually kept Ms. Billcliff for that since she's the athletic director as well. But we've got a pretty good participation rate for all 3 groups. I'm sure the numbers have gone up, and actually Ms. Trudeau could chime in on cross country because she's one of the coaches. But at the time that I sent the report in, there were 16 kids for boys soccer, 10 for girls, and 16 for cross country, I think. And Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're up to 19 to 21 for cross country. So lots of good participation for athletics, and that's been going well. That just started on Monday. And then I have a few other update type things for you since I sent the report that I'll get to before I get to the facilities committee stuff. So I just wanted to give an update on NEASC. We are scheduled for our NEASC accreditation visit at the end of October 25th through 28th, I believe. That's a Sunday through Wednesday. I spoke with Ed Wilkins, who will be the chair of our visiting committee. He and I agreed to a primarily virtual visit with interviews and tours done over Zoom and over other platforms. But he and his assistant chair will be visiting the school for an in-person tour at some point during those days. And just a reminder, I don't have a schedule set up yet, but there are interviews with school board members, the superintendent, that type of stuff that will be part of that visit. So we'll be working on developing a schedule in the next couple of weeks for that. Also wanted to give you an update on special education services. We had kids coming back to campus this week, starting Monday. That went really well. We had, the typical bus transportation timing hiccups the first couple days, but those resolved. Our buses actually rolled 2 minutes early today, which was nice. But it's been great to have kids back on campus. The teachers and the paraprofessionals have been doing a great job of keeping them engaged and following safety protocols, and the kids seem really happy to be back to school. Third update is a sign. I was in touch with New Hampshire Signs. They are working with Mr. Ballou to schedule the installation of the new letterboard sign. They were just out a few days ago staking out exactly where the foundation will go. So my guess is that that work will start pretty soon. Laker Day schedule, we have the younger grades K-4 starting next week. We've got pretty good participation. I think our biggest group is around 30 on Monday with 2 grade levels. And then every other grade level, I think, is between 15 and 25. So good participation there. We're looking at doing K-4 next week, 5 through 8, the week of September 28th. And then pausing for the first 2 weeks of October, just because we have NWA testing and New Hampshire SAS testing that we need to really focus on for those 2 weeks. Then we'll resume for the second half of October and do another round of primarily outdoor Laker Day. And then probably in November, we'll transition to more of a club-based invitation, just because at that point we'll need to be more indoors and we'll want to keep group sizes smaller. So Ms. McDonald actually just sent out an email tonight to staff asking for interest in putting some clubs together. So I'll have more information on that moving forward. And then the last thing I wanted to touch base on before I go back to what's actually in the packet. Mr. Winslow and I had been in communication about a district credit card a couple months ago, just for purchases that can't be made with a purchase order. And
Yeah, I think that was with the full board, actually.
Okay.
I kind of remember that in a meeting. But.
Yep. So I finally was able to touch base with the business administrator about that, and he suggested that the board make a decision and then make a formal motion on whether or not to proceed with that. I don't know if, I think once that happens, he would then provide parameters on how that would work. But so that I just wanted to let you know that that would be his advice, is to move forward with a formal motion for approval for that.
Okay. Do you guys want to discuss it now, or do you want to go through the report and come back to this?
I think we discussed it quite a bit. I'd be happy to make a motion to let the business director set parameters to.
If you don't mind, I'm just going to ask Dr. Henson one question before we do, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, because only because this came up again at the joint board level, and so there's some kind of conversation about the best way to structure this. So I just ask you for your advice before we make a motion.
It's purely up to the local board. If you all would prefer to have a credit card that is originating with your local board, and we can provide very specific guidelines on the use of that card and that sort of thing. But we are going to be asking the joint board of the SAU for the same at the SAU office. So if you wanted, we could have a single SAU credit card, then purchases could be made against that and consolidate the bookkeeping and that sort of thing all in one place. And we would just bill Northwood board for purchases made on behalf of Northwood. To me, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Okay.
So how would that, I get that, and kind of to make it all one book, make it easier, but we have to do purchase, I think it's just the word, right?
Requisitions.
Requisitions, yeah, through the SAU to get it, instead of saying, hey, let me just go ahead and buy it, and because we have a credit card, and then
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, if you had the local card, you're gonna want to save your receipts, you're gonna want to save your packing slips, that sort of thing, because we have to do reconciliation after the fact.
Mhm.
But like I said, I don't have a particular recommendation one way or the other. It's up to what you all want to do. I do recommend that you have something, whether it's housed at the SAU or it's housed in Northwood. There needs to be something. Many companies are going to credit card only, and they're not even doing ACH wire payments. It's credit card or nothing.
Mhm. And I think that's why this came up, is because some weren't taking purchase orders. So my preference would be to keep it local, just because we do also have a lot of changes going between the 3 districts, and I think that
Mhm.
would be just more ease of use in that sense.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's some good logic there. So,
Also, I think we should probably get some policy on that too.
Yeah, there are very specific procedures and guidelines and checks and balances that you'll need to have in place, and we can give you all model language.
okay.
And what about a spending limit? Because our limit without board approval is $10,000, I think it went up to, or is it 7,500? I always forget. I know we raised it. So, but on a credit card, that's a big purchase. So
That's a big chunk on a credit card. You might want to have a smaller limit without an approval for a credit card purchase. Simply because, and I know that your folks are as honest as the day is long, but it can become an issue. You don't want open records act requests coming in constantly wanting to see your district credit card bill.
Ms. Young, what do you think a limit would be? Like if you've noticed some things that you weren't able to purchase that you're like, this would probably be a good limit.
It's hard to say. I mean, the particular matter that brought this to our attention recently was the portable sinks, because we were buying so many of them and it was over $4,000. I don't think that would be a typical thing. So I think even $1,000 would be a reasonable limit, and then have some provision for, seeking approval if it needed to exceed that.
Would y'all like a recommendation from me on that?
Sure.
I think it's reasonable to put a $5,000 single purchase limit. When I have had district credit cards and then principals have had building level cards in my previous work, I've had a $50,000 limit for purchases that I authorized, but we had all of our principals with a $5,000 limit. And I think that's reasonable. And if you had several people booking travel and they're all going to the same conference, you could easily hit that with making a travel reservation. I know we're not traveling right now, but I think $5,000 is reasonable. It's whatever y'all are comfortable with.
Shirley, do you have what you need to make a motion, or do we want to ask more questions first?
I think we're good. You guys can help me if I butcher it. I'm gonna say I'll make a motion for the administration to work with the business administrator to get the approval and recommended protocols for using a credit card local to Northwood, with a maximum of $5,000 purchasing cap for anything that's not pre-approved by the school board. Is that good?
Only thing
Did I miss something?
on that language is that $5,000 cap, but whatever the limit is, the limit could be 20,000, but
Your
you can't just-
card limit may be bigger, but a spending limit or
Single
spending
purchase
authority.
can't be-
Yes,
Spending
yes, just
authority.
without pre-approval, yeah.
Second?
Okay, so we have the motion by Shirley Glennon, the second by Shane Wells. Anybody want to ask anything else, or we get a roll call through? Okay, looks good. Brian Winslow is a yes. Jessica Boudreau.
Yes.
Okay, I heard it there. It was a little fuzzy at first. Shane Wells,
Yes.
Stephanie Arroyo,
Yes.
Shirley Glennon,
Yes.
Okay, so that motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Thanks, Shirley, for wording that.
I tried. Thank you.
Good job.
Okay.
Thank you. So the next big chunk I have is the facilities committee update. I didn't know if you wanted that to be now or if you wanted to wait for later in the agenda when committee updates come.
Let's go for it now.
Okay. So Mr. Blue, Mr. Sayers, Ms. Arroyo, and Ms. Glennon and I met on September 4th. We accomplished a couple of things. We reviewed the results from the air quality report, or test that was done at the end of July. All the things that were tested were within acceptable limits. There were a couple of things that were slightly elevated, particularly the relative humidity. It was the end of July. It was a hot and humid day. So that was a little bit higher than exterior humidity, but it was still within acceptable limits. And then there were a couple rooms where the particulate matter readings were a little bit higher, still within acceptable limits, but just elevated compared to outside. Again, that was likely related to humidity and also some recent painting that had occurred. Also, the test was done prior to the filters being changed. Those have since been changed, so any new test, I think, would be improved now that the air is a little bit drier and the filters have been changed. So the short story there is the air quality results were fine. The air quality report has been posted on the website and is also available in hard copy in our main lobby. And then we also reviewed some larger purchases. As you know, we've made lots of smaller purchases that have totaled a somewhat significant amount of money in response to COVID and safety protocols, but there were some bigger ticket items that we discussed as a committee and overall recommend purchasing. So the first item that the facilities committee recommends purchasing is temperature scanners that people walk through. And that just alleviates some of the demands on manpower that the screening process requires and expedites that process. It also automatically logs the data so that we're not then also using manpower to maintain that data entry piece. And then it frees up, as we're planning on bringing more kids into the building, it frees up the 12 people that would be assigned to screening to then be in classrooms and hallways monitoring and supporting safety protocols in the hallways and classrooms. So we're not entirely sure what our traffic pattern will look like yet, but we know that we typically have kids coming in 2 entrances in the mornings. And so the recommendation is to purchase 2 of those for a total of approximately $9,000. The second purchase that the committee recommends is a water bottle filler. We already have 2 in the building, one at the end of the 7-8 hallway and one at the end of the 3-4 hallway. We've turned off the water bubbler portions of those, and then we've also turned off the water bubblers, just the plain water bubblers throughout the building. So that leaves the kindergarten end of the building with really no access to water, aside from bathroom sinks, which is not ideal. We are required by state statute to have water available in or at least near the cafeteria. So we're out of compliance with that, or will be once we have kids back in the building regularly. So the recommendation is to purchase a water bottle filler to put in that hallway for a total of approximately $2,800. And then the final purchase that we're recommending is UVC lights. They're, imagine sort of like a person-sized tower that wheels into the middle of a room. It's set up by a custodian. It works. It takes about 10 minutes to set it up. It runs for about half an hour. The light disinfects and sanitizes the space, and then it's wheeled to another room to do the same thing. Those would provide consistent and reliable sanitizing of classrooms. It kind of takes out that human error element that's always possible. And so that would be a recommendation. We're looking at 5 of them, 4 medium-sized ones. Each one of those could do a regular-sized classroom, and then 1 large one that could do larger spaces like the office or the lobby. You can stack them, so you can have multiple devices in one larger space. to cover a larger square footage like the gymnasium if you wanted to do that. So that would be approximately $32,000 for a total cost. Related to that, it would be a full-time job to set those up and run those. Mr. Baloo calculated that it would take about 7.5 hours to do the entire building. So that would be a full-time job. And so we're also recommending that the district consider hiring another custodian now. If we decide to move forward with the purchase of the UVC lights, that we hire another custodian that would be responsible for the setup and running of those. And then there's some associated equipment, goggles, Tyvek vests, suits, that type of thing, to protect the custodian that would also be included in that cost. And then finally, just moving forward, when we bring kids back to the building in a hybrid setting, we're finding that even with just staff and 30 kids in the building on a daily basis, the custodial demands are significant. And so if we're going to increase the number of kids in the building, we would also want to consider increasing custodial staffing during the day. So that's what the facilities committee came up with. I don't know, Stephanie or Shirley, if there's anything you want to add.
I think that pretty much covers it.
A question on the equipment. Do we know if there's a delay? Like say if we waited a little bit longer on this to see where we're at with hybrid and all that, is it something we can get faster, or is it back ordered, or?
So Mr. Baloo's been in contact with the company. They make them to order and typically ship within 7 to 10 days of the order being made. So they didn't seem concerned that that would change over time. But of course, anything can happen.
So another thing is too, is like I'm looking at like hiring a custodian. I know we need one. I don't think we need a custodian to do this 7.5 hours every single day. I mean, because we do have that day of cleaning, of deep cleaning. So I think that would be a day that the custodian could do it. I mean, I'm not trying to like tell what the custodians need to do, but I think we could probably use that custodian somewhere else. But I was thinking more, and I wasn't even thinking cleaning every single room with it. I thought it was more for like having that going, like when kids are walking into the building, and possibly like if there's a large amount of more people, say in the gym or something like that. So I didn't know that it was actually for
And
you.
can I give you some details on it?
Yeah, go ahead.
From what I understand, you can't run it like when somebody's there because there are negative effects from the blue light. So it's not like something we could have going when students are coming in and out. It has to be when there's no one else. Like the person who operates it has to be in full gear to protect them from the blue light, is my understanding. And then the reason it was that many hours was that was literally the amount of time to like set each one up and rotate back to the first one and move it. Like would take like the 7.5 hours if you were doing each room. So it was like 10 minutes to set it up, go to the next one, go to the next one. And by the time you're done with each setup, you're back to the first one, moving it to another location. So that just to clarify the timing, but I don't think you can run it like when people are around.
Yeah, that's my understanding too. I've never seen one of these, but if you think of like in your high school lab, they probably had the protective goggles in the metal case that you couldn't open up because in there's a UV light and it's damaging to people to come into contact directly with UV light. So like just like a big one of those. I personally, I'm hesitant, just I think because of the like how much. I'm hesitant because it's of the price tag and the hours that it takes to operate it. So, I mean, how much better is that than if we do a deep clean manually? Is it worth it? So, for me, that one, I mean, I kind of would feel like maybe like the 4 of the medium ones, but I don't know. I think we should discuss it. I'm hesitant on it. Of the other ones on the list, I definitely think we should get the water bottle filler. I think that's a long-term benefit to the school regardless. And we want our students to be hydrated in the kindergarten wing, and our staff to be hydrated as well. I think that's an important one, and that's one that we'll continue to use, regardless of our pandemic situation. Up to the doorway temperature scanner, I'm hesitant on that one for kind of the same reason. I just, after the emergency order is lifted, I don't know that's going to be a piece of equipment that we continue to use. I do definitely think it would free up some time while we're here, but I have reservations about those two. Just putting that out there.
So my question on that is, what could we use our one of our CIPs on this? I mean, not a CIP, our
The capital improvement fund, or one of those. Yeah.
So, because if that's the case, kind of like that's what it was designed for in a way, for emergencies. So I could see buying the temperature scanners. I'm with you on the UV lights. But if that's possible, if we could use use that fund, I think it will be justified. I don't think it coming out of our budget. I don't mind the water bottle fill coming out of our budget because it's needed. I think that was our overall plan anyways, to change over our bubblers to the water bottle filler eventually anyways. But can we look to see if we can use that fund?
So I think, is that a question for Dr. Henson probably, or to go to our business administrator? We have a few reserve funds. Two of them are worded around like maintenance and groundskeeping and things. I think, and I don't have the exact language with me, I always forget it, but we have a building repair and maintenance capital reserve fund or something like that, that we were going to take money from, or we are taking money for our sign out of there. And we had just installed money back in March from a warrant vote into that fund. So that to me is the obvious place if we're going to do these kind of upgrades. So if we could just check and see if we could if we can use that fund for these kinds of purchases, I think that'll help us in making these decisions. Do you guys just want to talk more about what you're thinking on the UVC lights? Well, just in general, Stephanie, you're on the committee as well, I think. Do you have more to add? No. I guess one of the questions I have on just trying to understand how it works, if you set this thing up in the middle of the room and lights are coming all out, if you have a desk 5 feet away, there's going to be a shadow behind that. Is the light strong enough? I don't know the technology. Is the light strong enough to bounce off the walls and get every square inch of the room? Is it really that good, or is it, if there's a shadow, then that area is not actually disinfected?
My understanding is that it covers the square footage of the room regardless of the objects in it, but I can clarify that with Mr. Ballou.
That's my understanding as well. They're used in hospitals and in hotels and things like that. And so you'd have the same types of objects in those types of environments. That's my understanding of how they work as well.
Okay. Jessica, do you have any comments or questions on these 3 items? Or?
Yeah, thank you. And sorry, I'm not on video, but I'm here.
No, I know that. That's good.
Yeah. You guys don't want to see me right now, so it's very late in the day for me. I think I trust the facility committee, and I tend to see this as a long-term investment. We just don't know the world we're going to have in the next. We don't know what's going to come up again, and so I hear you on this. Maybe just feeling short-term, but I think that it actually is going to just equip us for anything that pops up later. So I'm in support of all 3, but I'm happy to, vote if we need by each item.
Can I make a recommendation to the board?
Sure.
Sure.
I recommend we table the UV light and the temperature scanner, and approve the water bottle to go forward, which would actually, we don't even need approval. The administration can do that anyways, because it's under $10,000. But I would like to put out an ad because it's probably going to be pretty hard to find a custodian. We did that prior to our hybrid, and we didn't get anybody. So I think if we start now looking for someone, at least we'll have that, because if we go back hybrid, we'll need a custodian anyways. I don't know if how the board feels about that.
I do have one question. I think that's good advice you just offered. And my question was going to be this position, that point about hiring the custodian, is that in addition to the custodian we had already approved to hire a month and a half ago or so, or is this the same position?
I think that the additional one was another half-time position. Is that right, Jocelyn? Like
We had talked about hiring another full-time person, but then put that on hold when we decided to open remotely. So it's not a second full-time position. It's sort of resurrecting the other one.
Okay, then great. Okay, then I would support that because for the reasons that we already discussed a couple of weeks ago. And I support the water bottle too. I do want to clarify, I think there's a $10,000 limit on purchases before we have to go out to bid. That's our policy, but I don't, I think there, just thinking like budgetarily, there's cost centers and there's some flexibility there, of course, but I do think, we want to give the administration approval on record for this purchase because it's not one that was in our budget originally. So I don't know what you guys think budget philosophy, but let's just be on record saying we support it, I think.
Sounds good.
About the UV lights, I know that's the priciest item on the update here, but I think like Jessica was saying, and I think a couple others, looking at the long term, and this is also to protect the staff and the staff who's doing that cleaning. So this is, you put it in the room and it wipes out everything in the room, but that also protects them from any other additional cleaning that they might have to do as well and things like that. So I just want to be cautious because I think this also is a huge it protects our staff that we have that are doing one of the riskiest positions, having to go and clean all of those rooms and touch all the equipment that everyone has touched and things like that. This really helps mitigate some of that touching of those objects and stuff like that. So just want to put that out there as a piece.
Yeah,
And I just wanted to say the thing that swayed me on it, because I wasn't quite sure about it, is that with what it does for cleaning, it will help with like flu and things like that too. So in a situation where we're trying to determine, people have symptoms, and is it a cold? Is it a flu? Is it COVID? The more we can eliminate, the more we're going to be able to really get kids back in the building, because we're eliminating all of those factors that could possibly be COVID. So that's what swayed me on it. That's just my personal take.
Yeah, I really see it as a long-term benefit, not just a COVID thing. I don't see it as this is something that would end the second COVID is done. This is something that can be used long-term.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I guess I'm just hung up on the price tag.
It is expensive.
I would like to personally like to table that one, but ask if we could get a price on just the 4 small ones or 4 medium-sized ones, knowing that they can be daisy chained together, that we could do that to clean like the lobby and the office. And it might change the timing and stuff a little bit, but I think that might be a reasonable purchase at that point, depending on the price, but assuming that the large one is probably more expensive than the smaller ones, that might be a way where we could go. And if it's not enough, we could revisit it, but maybe start from there. If you guys are okay with that, that's what I would like to do on the UVC lights. And then
I'm in 100% agreement with every single one of you. I just want to table it to find out if we could use our capital improvement, our grounds fund. That's the only reason why I want to table it. So Dr. Henson, we were directing that towards you earlier. I don't know if you wrote that down. Okay.
I did.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna get information about our reserve fund availability for these purchases. I assume we can, but we want to find out for sure, particularly on the UVC lights. I think we do probably want to go ahead with a water bottle filler for the kindergarten wing, if I heard everybody correctly. And I think we do want to go ahead with posting for the custodial position, if I heard everybody correctly. Is that
That's correct.
okay? That's what I'm seeing. And then back to the doorway temperature scanner. I'm gonna, if somebody wants to motion that, I'm gonna vote against it, but I'll leave that up to anybody else. I appreciate the recommendation. It's where I draw the line. So anybody want to fight me on that one?
I'm okay with holding for now. I feel like, we can kind of see how things go, but if we have smaller groups coming in and we can see what the process is and the timeline for, getting those kids in the building, I think that part of the thing was how much that would speed up that process to make it effective to get students in. So maybe that's something that as we try to get more students in, we see like how bad is that lag of getting kids in, and is that something that we need to improve our processes for the day or not?
Sure.
Yeah, I can't remember if we talked about the doorway temperature scanner, that it does log everyone and it keeps a record. So that's also a nice feature of it. I'm okay with holding off on it, especially until we get a hybrid plan underway. But I think it's definitely something that would be useful and helpful in all of that as well.
Okay. All right, are we in agreement pretty much for now? We're gonna table the doorway scanner, just not indefinitely, but just table it. And then specifically table the UVC lights, looking at cutting out the large one, but also looking at the capital reserve funds, or whatever reserve funds we have available. And the other two we're gonna go ahead with for now. Okay, that's what we'll do. Awesome. Is there anything else in the principal's report?
Well, now I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Robert, who is going to share with you a technology update. There he is.
Well, thank you. Evening. I hope everybody's doing all right. I actually emailed all of you, hopefully all of you, the document that I'm going to talk about, only because I didn't have it in the packet or anything, and I was going to just come up, and every year we like to talk about technology updates that are going on for that school year. It's more or less me talking, answering questions, that kind of thing. But because of this kind of meeting, I had to send it out an email. I couldn't just pass it out to you. And I'm sure you didn't get a chance to look at it, and I didn't expect you to, but I wanted to make sure you had it. What I sent, what I want to talk about, I'm going to go against what I usually do, and I'm going to try to be kind of brief. But there are a lot of points on here. This has been a very, very busy season for me, as you can probably imagine, and for everybody as well. I'm not the only one. But so there's a lot of things to just kind of put out there that we're dealing with. And the main focus of what I'm trying to do here is, with the model that we've gone to with the remote model, is to basically make sure that all of the students have the tool they need on their end, and it's functioning, and we deal with issues in the household and all of that. And then what we also have is different than the spring here, is we have the schools pretty much running as usual with all of our staff here, and they're using the stuff that they need to do to work with the students that are done remotely. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of these things are going on in the building. And that's why the first item on this list, you usually want to, when you make a report, you want to talk about something really good that's going on, but I kind of did it by priority. And if you read this at all, the first issue is kind of a big issue. It's a latency issue in the building. And it basically means that we're pulling internet resources in the building, and we're running into issues that you would maybe have in your household or somewhere. You lose connections, you have slow responses, that kind of thing, and which we really don't want, obviously. And we have a lot of people in the building that are sending out a lot of stuff, meetings, Google meetings, all kinds of different things. And we we need to have this stuff working. So it's something we noticed kind of right away. Kind of snuck up on me after the summer. Everything was working great. We actually just did an update, jacked up our internet speed to state recommendations, and thought things were going really well. But when people came back in the building, started to do this stuff, we ran into some problems. And in order to compensate for that, I went ahead and just went out and just gave everybody a wired connection to go right into the classroom like the old days. And all the teachers have the ability to do that. They can just plug the wire into the wall. So it goes right out, no issues, or hopefully no issues. And we took care of that. It's not a solution, but it's a way to fix it until other things get taken care of. So we have the signal coming in the building. We have the router, the access points that sit in the ceiling for your wireless laptops. And then you have the actual laptops themselves. You have units that are a few years old, whatever, those things are starting to creep up because we're starting to tax that stuff a little more than we have in the past. So all those things kind of tied together are making a few issues pop up here and there. Some drop connections, drop meetings here and there, things like that. So I'm working on taking care of that. Actually, today was a pretty good day on the upswing. It was determined late last night, we had a problem with the signal coming in the building, which I thought wasn't the case, but I proved it was. So I had to get back with that vendor to have them take care of it. They might have actually done something today. The signal is actually up to a point where it's within 80-some% of signal. I'm working to make sure that goes up to 100%, but I'm still checking on it. So hopefully if that issue's been resolved, it might take care of a lot of things. The next thing is to look at all of our access points, which historically have been great, but they're getting old. So now that we're doing all these new things in the building, I might have to look at doing some updates. And hopefully that'll take care of some other issues. And then obviously new computers, which I'll talk about in a minute. That's another thing that we might have to change the way we've done things historically, with 5-year plans, replacing equipment stuff, we might not be able to get away with that anymore. So that's kind of the issue with the latency problem. I don't want to spend too much time on it. Yep.
Can I ask a question about the latency? So you upgraded from 100 over 25 to 400 over 400.
Yes.
And there was drop issues. Do you think it's because too much people are on the wireless? Maybe their personal phones, personal stuff like that? Because you hardwire it and you're in. So it's not the information coming in, it's an overload. So do you think maybe that could be the issue? We need to tell teachers that they need to get off the Wi-Fi?
You're actually correct on how that happens sometimes, but based on what I saw last year, what we were doing, because I'm always monitoring this stuff based on what we had a much slower connection with much more traffic, download traffic anyway, and it doesn't relate. It's not matching up to the problem, and we have probably like 30 some odd connections going out. With that kind of speed, I shouldn't have any issues. Really shouldn't.
Yeah, it's very confusing because it should be stellar.
It really should be. And like I said, there's the problem is you're dealing with what's coming in the building, how the access points are running. They're all not running the same. You might have one room that's doing really well, another one that's not. And the problem I'm having here is they're moving around on me. So I might have a room that's having trouble, and then the next day it's down the hall. I truly believe it's a couple of issues tied together. It's getting my ISP to give me the signal I'm supposed to be paying, the one I'm supposed to get and I'm paying for. And then to figure out, do I have some old units that need to be replaced? If I have a steady connection coming in, then hopefully, one or two of those weak links will show all the time. And then you have older computers that are causing a couple other issues. I gave everybody wired connections again to get us to the point so they're all totally functional. They just can't walk around the room like they used to be able to do. And I can make sure this gets taken care of and they can instruct their students. But I had a couple of teachers still have a couple of issues, and both those issues were because of the computers they were using, and I had to take care of that. So there's a lot of things that tie together, which makes it, it's difficult to figure this stuff out sometimes and try to iron it down. But right now, as of today, I did prove that the signal was not adequate coming in the building. So I have to have that taken care of first. It's got to be the right speed and it's got to be consistent. Yeah, great. If I check it, it's 400 and then an hour later it's 200, that doesn't help me. So it has to be consistent. So they got to fix their issue. And I gave them the big speech on that, that it has to be now. And I'm going to give them till tomorrow. and I'll do some checks and figure out. And then I already have the vendor that I went through for the wireless access points to come up with a plan to quickly look at getting those analyzed and then figure out what's going on with that. But I can't do that until our provider of internet is stable. And I'm hoping that'll be done by tomorrow. So we're working through that process. But like I said, I mean, in each classroom, the stuff is happening in there. It's now just a cord hanging there. If they want to walk across the classroom, they can't do it maybe like they could a day or two ago. But I'm hoping that won't last long. I'm hoping only a few days total. That'll be done. That's what I'm looking. Any other questions on number one? Then I'll just go to the next one. So that's the big one. Then it kind of goes down from that. I talk a little bit about hardware in the building, things that have happened since summertime. I collected all the equipment from the kids, and then we had to issue them out again for summer school, and then we took them back in, and then we obviously distributed them for, once we decided to go remote learning, we had to get them all out again. And so that was an interesting process to go through. I had to do it a certain way to make sure everything came in, and I took everything back in. And some schools don't do that, but we did because I wanted to get all the equipment in, and that's when I did all of my inspection maintenance. They'd come in, I'd go through them, make sure they turned on, clean them up, store them. So that when I wanted to issue them again for summer school and the beginning of the year, I knew they were okay. So that was a good process to go through for the summer. A lot of units moving around, class structure and stuff. Big change was iPads for the K-1. We actually made a major change on that. We really only had those for supplemental instruction stuff, a couple in every classroom here and there, whatever. We decided because of a new purchase of software that we were going to go ahead and make sure all the K-1 had iPads because it was easier for them to use and they would get more out of it. That was a huge undertaking, and my big happy thing for the summer or end of summer was I was able to do that because we've had iPad issues here for years. Northwood just didn't like iPads in here, and I was able to take care of that, so I'm kind of psyched about that. So now we have iPads going out of here, no problem. I'm resurrecting dead iPads, and they're coming up 100%. So this is really cool stuff. So, and what's really nice is, I'm jumping around a little bit, sorry, but K-1 has been telling me that since we've done this with the iPads and with the new Seesaw program, which is like Classroom, but it's for younger kids, they're getting a lot of production out of their kids, more than ever before. So remotely anyway. So this is really cool. So that ended up doing pretty well. But that was the hardware stuff, was a lot going on over the summer. Any questions on that one? It's riveting, I know. Sorry, I'm going to get through this. New software program. We actually made an effort. It was really cool that teachers jumped on. We had some meetings at the end of school. We had a really big meeting in the summertime to really have a joint effort to get a handle on the software that we use here in the building, so it's more standardized, at least per grade and by school, and make sure we're kind of doing all the same thing and using the right tools. Big thing was making sure that we're using Classroom for certain grades. We're using new Seesaw, which is again a management tool for younger grades that works really well, and use those for K-1. And we were thinking about maybe going to 2 with that, but that's still on the fence right now. They're still using Classroom. And then looking at different software for subject matter. You have IXL and Freckle that are another 2 companies that provide content for instruction and remedial instruction. And we kind of divided that up because Freckle tends to do a little better with the younger kids, IXL a little better for the older kids. So we divided that up, and everybody made their impressions on that, and we made a decision on that. And we're still doing some other stuff with some other software over the course of this year. The technology committee is going to be doing work with that. And it's come along really well. So I wanted to mention there, we've actually spent a lot of time on that as well over the last 2-3 months. Any questions on software? Want to ask questions on specifics? Okay. Ordering new equipment. I'm not going to beat this to death. We all hear the stories about trying to get iPads or whatever, Chromebooks, stuff into schools. Everybody wants all these Chromebooks. Everybody wants laptops for their kids. We're in the same boat. Basically, I'm still waiting on equipment to come in. I have 100 Chromebooks trying to get in here. I'm still waiting on a bunch of staff laptops that I haven't got here yet. They were actually supposed to be delivered on a certain day, and they got shipped back because of a regulation that wasn't followed, and they had to go back to China. Really a messed up situation there that everybody's going through. And we have document cameras, still haven't gotten here yet. They're trying to get for the teachers a couple of things. It's just the equipment coming in is slow. But one thing with good about the computer side is we're able to keep the stuff running in here. We have all the units, but we're getting it out there. They're using them effectively, except for a couple of teacher issues with all the laptops we're trying to deal with. But hopefully we won't have to wait too much longer for the equipment to come in. It's at the point now where when vendors call up providers and providers say, don't ask me anymore. Don't ask me for that anymore, because they just don't want to, they can't deal with it. They're not tracking numbers or anything. They're trying to figure it out, but I'm being told mid-October, and then if that one doesn't come, if it doesn't come by then, it could be the first week of December. So I'm at the point now where I am, I've already told my vendor that if I find another solution on my own, I'm gonna have to jump at it. So hopefully that's not a problem with policy or anything, because I know we had to select a bid from a vendor, but I gotta get the units in here. So I might have to come up with another solution, and I'll make sure Jocelyn knows what's going on. What else? Use of old laptops, I already talked about that. I put the new website on here. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to do a lot with that because of what's been going on. I have to allocate my time and resources to what we have to get done. I have done some work on the new website. It's actually running in the background now, but we need to start figuring out massaging the content and what we want to do, the alert system that's tied to it. I'm hoping we'll have something going with that within a week. I don't want to promise anything, but that's the goal, to get that running, because we really want the notifications part of that system to kick in. But I wanted to put that on there, that it's still being done. It's just not a lot of time is being spent on it. As the days go on now, I will be spending a lot more time on it. I'm actually seeing light at the end of the tunnel as far as all the stuff with support. And again, we're running to number 7, technical support. I think my department, or me, has done a pretty good job with that. We sent a lot of units out there. There's stuff all over this town, and every house, every single student got a device, every student. We didn't even give them a choice this time. You're taking the device and you're going to have it. That way, if we require to use it for a certain program, you have it. I've been dealing with, obviously, support issues that have come up, and I think we've done a pretty good job as a school to make sure they're okay. My response time is still less than a day. Most of the time, it's within an hour or two. I try to at least contact somebody who's contacting me to make sure they're going to be okay and they're going to get what they need, either by coming and seeing me and getting something new, or I've even done deliveries already and driving to somewhere's house and swap it out and put it on their porch, that kind of thing. I think the support side's done pretty well so far. I'm down to very realistic emails. I did hit 350 one day. That's my highest, 350 emails.
Steve, can I just say,
Right.
I've nothing but like wonderful feedback about the job you're doing, in that parents are so happy and appreciative of how you're responding and helping them, and people are singing your praises. So you're going above and beyond, and we all really appreciate it. Everybody is really grateful, and I hope that you're hearing that message too, because I'm hearing it all over the place. So we appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks. I did go on that link at Facebook. I saw that. I'm not used to seeing stuff like that. Usually this is wrong. But it is kind of nice to see that. But based on what I talked in the beginning, unfortunately, I think the people outside are happy, but the people inside aren't unhappy, but they're, the little glitches that come up in the building kind of cloud my clout, I guess. Whatever. We're working on it. Thank you.
Brian. Yeah, Dr. Henson. Yeah.
Thank you. I just want to echo what Shirley had to say, but echo it from the SAU level, that you all are so lucky, and that your technology director is generous and kind with his expertise to the other technology directors, and has been really helpful as those folks are getting up to speed on learning how to Zoom and helping a lot. And it's so appreciated. I can't say enough. I'm on the tech guys email group now, and I get to see them, talking back and forth, and every once in a while I'll pipe in and ask a question, whatever. But it's just been so helpful to be able to call on him and take advantage of his expertise, and we're very grateful.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Nice to hear. Thank you. I do like, obviously I'm not here to the whole Steve show, but thank you. I do like to help people. That's why I do this, and hopefully we can make things a lot better here and fix some of these issues. So thank you. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop here. Like too many. All right, I got a couple more things. I'll let you guys be. School board meetings. Obviously, that was a huge thing this summer. If you all didn't know it, we actually had a major piece of equipment break for the way we do school board meetings here. So now when we do school board meetings, you see all my wires everywhere and my big camera up near the door and that whole mess. We're really close to solving that problem. I have a vendor trying to help me fix that and upgrade it, and hopefully trying to keep the costs down. But the meetings with me with the big camera and Adrian helping out with the other side of the room with Zoom will hopefully be over. And we'll be back to sitting like Gary used to do, sit back behind that little black box there, and everything will be running great. So I'm very close on that, but I'm really hoping that'll be worked out. We spent a lot of time on that. We made it work. I think it's been working okay, but that'll be taken care of as soon as that next part comes in. So that's what's been going on with that. Two things left, sorry. Alma, we're doing a grade scheme change. I'm not sure if I think Kathleen's here. A lot of stuff's going on with changing the way we do grading with Alma. I'm not going to sit here and talk about that whole thing with how grades are, how the philosophy behind that or whatever, but there's a big change inside the system to make that happen. I'm working on that issue. That's actually a problem that I'm taking care of, and it slows down a few things being processed with our grading system, but I'm trying to jump all over that. That actually will be resolved one way or the other over the weekend. It has to be. So I've already made plans to do whatever I need to do on 2 or 3 solutions to have it done by Sunday evening. So that's my hope. But I know you don't see that too much, but that's a behind the scenes kind of thing. And last but not least, testing. I'm not going to bore you with the whole testing thing, except to say that we are doing NEWA and SAS testing. NEWA is our traditional online testing we do for Common Core, and the New Hampshire's SAS testing has been going on for a few years now, and that happens usually in the spring. But because of COVID, they're doing interim testing in October, and we will be testing grades 4 through 8 in October. But because of that, we're only going to test NWEA for grades K through 3. So Kathleen and I have spent some time putting that together, and she's actually done really good with that scheduling piece. Really good job on that, actually. I really like it. But we have a plan in place to have testing done within a very short amount of time. NEWA is looking like 6 days. And SAS will be done by the end of October, but the initial testing should be done within a week or so. So that's what the plan is. Because it's done remotely, the students will be taking those tests at home, and a few might take the test here in the school depending on their needs. And the parents will hopefully physically proctor. They're not going to be expected to do much of anything except for try to make them not cheat. The administration of NWEA is going to be done by me online on my computer over here. And the schedule is in place to do that effectively. Because of the smaller numbers, I can do that myself. However, SAS will be the rest of the school, and classroom teachers will be running their sessions like they normally would do when the students were there, but they'll be doing it with the students at home. And obviously, each of those sessions, I'm going to be living in those rooms to make sure there's no problems and making sure the students have what they need. And I can't just walk up to a student anymore. I have to actually either talk to them on the phone or a chat session or a video session that's provided. Like I said, I've been doing that with support anyway, decently. So I'm really thinking that that won't be much of a problem. And we have enough set up so that I can do makeup sessions for both types of testing before the end of October. So that's kind of the testing issue. I'm not sure if anybody has any questions about testing. I know it's kind of a mystery of how that's going to get done, but it's basically going to be done the same way it's done in the school, except the student's computer won't be in the classroom. It'll be at home. No real other changes besides that. So that's pretty much it for me. All the stuff that's going on. The only thing I didn't really talk about, which I won't talk about, but you know, the other part of my job that I like to actually teach students. I spend time with students, and Jocelyn and I've talked about it a couple of times over the summer about my schedule for that in the coming time. It's not on the radar right now, but maybe in the next month or so we'll look at that again. My goal is to get back into the classrooms again, obviously remotely or whatever we're end up doing. So I didn't put that on the report, but it's another piece of the puzzle that I'm hoping to get going once things calm down a little bit. That's pretty much the end of it for me. Any other questions or anything?
Does any board member have a question for Mr. Robert? Okay, I have two, I guess, real quick, and I just first I want to echo what Ms. Glennon and Dr. Henson said, and also make a note, like observing my own children using some of the new software this year. It's been smoother. I think those were good decisions. So thank you. I just because I feel bad having Kathleen sit through the entire meeting without saying anything. If you want to just give us a quick, because we talked about grading, just like a 2-sentence, what the change is, just so I mean, I think I remember it, but just, I didn't think at the time about how much that would affect Mr. Roberts' work, but it makes sense now. If you want to just recap what's going on the curriculum end, I think that would be appropriate.
Sure. Regarding the reporting for progress monitoring at the interim time, mid-trimester, and also at the end of the trimester, it used to be that teachers had to keep two grade books. One was a numerical grade book for percentages, and one was reporting student progress toward standards, meeting standards, exceeding standards. And the experience from last spring clearly told us that we needed to revamp our indicators to focus on student progress that they're making along the way versus just toward a particular standard at a time. And we also needed to recognize that reporting percentages for students was really not giving us information about how students were progressing. So we've moved to progress reporting. We're going to have 5 indicators of student progress this year, including a new 5th statement, which says there is insufficient information to report on progress. And that is a way of helping us and parents to understand that some further interventions are needed for a student who's not showing evidence of their learning. We're also, as I mentioned, getting away from a percent score and focusing more just on a 4-point scale that will help us to still look at class ranking for our 8th grade students, and being able to report the valedictorian, salutatorian, and high honors for our students. So that's more embedded in the background within the Alma system, how that will be worked out. But for parents, we're focusing on progress toward standards. We're looking at completion of product and demonstration of performance. And this is verbiage that starts to move us even closer to a competency-based educational system, which is our intention also to continue work on this year in terms of developing competencies that are framed from the New Hampshire state model competencies. So it did require some work within Alma to switch our systems, and that's what Mr. Roberts is referencing in his report.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And then my second question is kind of just a little bit of, I don't even know that it's really a question, but I've been thinking about the testing, the state mandated testing coming in October, and about how we are remote, and thinking, I mean, I think it's a little bit concerning because I know there's a lot of protocol around who can say what during a test, and what materials students are allowed to have for that test and whatnot. So I think it would potentially be good for the board just to get a little bit more detail on that, maybe at our next meeting. And I would just dump out there that it might be, I won't say it might be a good idea or a bad idea, but it might be good for the board to know if you have considered doing that on campus, kind of like we're doing Laker Days. And just, I'm not saying that that is a good idea or a bad idea, but I think just if that's part of the discussion that we have in a couple of weeks about what is the best approach for this and how we came to that, I think I would appreciate that anyways. I don't know what other board members feel, but.
Yeah, I am planning to report on that. I will mention that with the interim assessment, it's not anything that's reported for accountability to the state. This is for our own internal use, for us to be reflective on where students are, because there will be gaps in learning that would have naturally occurred, but it can also help us to see where there might be gaps that result from inequities of access. And that's something that we want to be very sensitive and careful with attending to, so that we can make sure we're providing adequate interventions that could be technology related, that could be related to a need for additional intervention services, or that could be just maybe a need of social services to help students better engage in their academics. So it is an opportunity to get information that helps us to better support our students. Along with that, it will be very well managed that parents of younger students and the older students in the middle school will have clear guidance about how to access the test and to take it in a remote setting. We're also planning to educate both parents and students about the need for academic integrity, so that we are getting information that is usable. And finally, another reason for looking to do this is so that we have some ongoing data to help us internally as an educational system monitor our own progress. And if we were to bypass this opportunity and not do, say, even NEWA testing, we'd really be, I think, doing a disservice to looking at our own internal accountability. As for doing it on a Laker Day, we had talked about doing something like that. However, the logistics again of bringing students in, having only a few students within a classroom at a time do this testing seemed to be too logistically cumbersome. And actually students are becoming more comfortable with managing their technology in their home environment. So we wanted to take advantage of that. We also didn't want to step on Laker Day as a time when you're coming in and taking an assessment. We'd rather reserve that for those opportunities for community building and relationship building, and keep the focus on more social and emotional wellness, and schedule other times during the academic day for students to complete those interim assessments.
Okay, thank you.
Brian,
Jump in.
wait,
Yeah.
I think Jessica had a question and then
Thank you, Dr. Hanson. Related to that though, what aside from providing guidance to families on how to access the tests, what is the plan for practicing with families actually, and helping them troubleshoot the technology and
the administration, Mr. Robert, actually, this would be a good question for you, because I think.
Yeah, the administration of the test is the students have already taken these tests repeatedly, except for obviously kindergarten, maybe a little first grade, and then the fourth graders. They did take it once already. Like I was trying to emphasize before, it's basically the same thing they did here, but they're just doing it on another computer at their home. Obviously, trying to come up with or set up a way to support that environment is not going to be as adequate as it was here. There's no way I can't walk into a classroom or another person will walk in and take care of those 30 students, one or two issues here and there that are going on. It's going to be, for me anyway, and the teacher and whoever else might be involved, a little stressful if it's not handled correctly. And I'm trying to work that whole thing out so that when things happen or we need to give them support, that's something that happens quickly, communication that goes through a video, through a Zoom kind of thing, or a phone or whatever. Emails actually work really well. They're very quick. And then you don't have to worry about emotion being involved and kids respond to that. So trying to just give succinct answers, do this, you need this, and providing resources. We're just going to end up doing that.
Yeah. Sorry, but you mean while they're taking the test? I'm just thinking about how to prepare them for it. Yes, these students have taken these tests before, but in a very different environment with educators who understand how to navigate the technology. So I'm just asking about the plan for getting families to even know the website before, or
That's
to
being
walk with
sent out, yeah.
students? Like when is that going to happen? How will it happen? And when you say that students can email you, do you mean while they're taking the test or before?
So if I can add to that a little bit, we are planning to send out information for the NEWA assessment to families tomorrow. And next week, we'll be sending out information to the families of students taking the SAS assessment. The state regarding the SAS assessment has changed their platform for testing to include specifics to assist with remote learning. So for example, if a student is having difficulty, they can have a direct connection, a video conferencing connection to the teacher who's in the classroom to help with whatever that question might be in terms of administration of the test. So the teacher has their open dashboard, just like a Zoom meeting, with pictures of all their students taking the assessment. And as a student has a question, there's a direct one-to-one conversation with the teacher. The student is unaware of anyone else taking the test at that time. They only see the teacher, but the teacher can monitor and proctor that exam as they would typically do in a regular classroom. So things of this nature are going to be put in that communication to parents. Will be very explicit in the documentation that we send out that gives very specific steps to parents. And this would be done well in advance, a full week plus in advance of when students would begin to SAS test. For our fourth grade students who had not taken a SAS assessment, the fourth grade teachers are already planning to do some practice problems with the students where they can go in and help them to understand how to access the tools in the platform so that they feel comfortable and feel confident in managing their taking the assessment. And then they can just focus when the day comes on completing it.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. Sorry, and I might have missed it. There's a lot going on in the background here. Are the parents required to be home at the time of the assessment when the assessment is happening?
For younger students, it is going to be a recommendation that parents support their child to access the NEWA assessment. Because certainly just reading if you have documentation that walks a parent through how to specifically access that, we would need a parent, a guardian, a caregiver there. And that would play into our need to also talk about that piece about creating a comfortable home environment for the student to sit down and take an exam, that there are fewer distractions, and to talk about the need for that academic integrity of letting the child take the assessment. As you're working up into the middle intermediate level, there might be a mix of students who are more precocious and can manage accessing and taking the assessment themselves. And certainly the teacher, this is now for the SAS assessment, the teacher is certainly proctoring that assessment. So they are there. And it could be that a parent would also be available or nearby. That could be a recommendation. As we get into the middle school, we're really anticipating at the 6, 7, 8 level that students would be taking this assessment under their own academic integrity. If a parent, and parents would understand this, and that they felt a desire or need to be around or present, they certainly could do that. But here is a chance for students to, have a little self-regulation and understand that the information from this is really to assist them in their own academic program. So maintaining that academic integrity in taking the assessment would be very important and helpful.
Guys, I'm gonna, if it's okay with you, I'm gonna try to pull us back in a little bit. We're gonna get a curriculum director report at our next meeting where we're gonna discuss some of these issues. I think it's good to know what's on our mind. So I let it go a little bit, but we were under the principals report and we had a technology report. We're kind of veering a little bit off the agenda, if that's okay with everyone here. Okay, thank you. I appreciate Ms. Sholin. I know I did open that can of worms, and I appreciate you. Yeah, but we'll just try to get back on. So I'm sure we'll continue that discussion in October. Is there anything else for Mr. Robert or Ms. Young? Okay, we're going to move to our business administrators report. I'm sure you all noticed Mr. Waring is not here this evening. He had contacted me a couple of days ago. He has a scheduling conflict. He sits on, I don't remember exactly what, but it's a board or organization or something. What is it?
He's a county commissioner in the county where he lives.
And they happen to meet the first and third Tuesday of the month. Thursday, excuse me, first and third Thursday of the month. So we have an ongoing scheduling conflict with, he did express regret about that, and also that he would be very happy to receive questions ahead of time as we get the material in a email packet, and also a paper packet, that we could email him before the meeting, and that the questions could come to us through Dr. Henson, and we can also go over the materials here and ask questions here, and then they'll get back to him and he'll get back to us from there. But that's the situation we're in for now. So Dr. Henson, do you want to just talk us through the business administrator's report?
Can I say something real quick before that?
Of course, yes, of course you can.
I totally understand his obligations with the county, but I mean, it's budget season, and nothing against Dr. Henson. We just went through a new superintendent. And we just lost the superintendent. I mean, everything is kind of like out of whack with the budget coming up. I mean, he needs to be here, or a representative that needs to be here. And maybe Dr. Henson, maybe I'm speaking out of line. Maybe you'll do
Not at all. Not at all. I actually, Brian, I'm really not prepared to do the line item discussion of his report. I didn't realize that you would want me to do that. I'm happy to describe any questions that you all want to send to him.
Okay.
What I was saying is, like,
not qualified to do it.
I mean, that budget guy, and I mean, it needs to be here at least, once. Well, it's always at least once a month. And if he's not going to be here through September, October, and I mean, we got warrant articles we need to discuss. We got the 5% or the 2.5% of last year's budget. There's so much that I have questions for, and I guess I'm not intellectually knowledgeable enough to look at it on the outside and ask those questions. They come when he's here. Yeah. And we're all kind of like multiple brains are at it, working at it. And then, stuff pops up. So I don't know what we can do if we need to change a meeting to a different date. Yeah. Something to happen.
I was unaware until yesterday, late in the day yesterday, that he was not going to be at the Northwood meetings. That was when I first learned.
Yeah, that's probably when I learned too, at some point yesterday in an email. Okay, so let's go through the reports for now. If we have any questions, we'll go through, we'll get them down, and then I guess we can talk about future plans for how we get a business administrator's report. So in our packet, we have the 2020 financials. I'm looking on our page 9, and this is our monthly revenue report. Does anybody have any questions on our page 9? Okay, and this is for the 2019-2020 school year. I'm gonna move on. Next report we have is the expenditure report summary, and it's showing the bottom line of the end of 2019, 2020, $324,094.36 for a surplus. Does anybody have any question here?
Say that again. Where you seeing that, Brian?
Okay, I'm on our page 10,
Yep.
and it's titled the monthly expenditure report summary fiscal year.
Yeah, so the balance you said?
So then I go to the bottom line all the way to the right, and the budget balance, that's the grand total of $324,094.36. So that I'm reading that as our surplus.
Okay, and that's something that we need to discuss, of that we could take up to 5% and carry over?
Potentially, in the past, our retained fund balance was capped at, I believe it was 2.5%. And I heard in this meeting, but not with Glenn, that may have been changed to 5% for this year. So I think that's our first question, probably, is what is our retained fund balance cap?
Yeah, so I'd like to see like the 2.5% and the 5%. What's that amount? Because I know September 27th, they grant that code goes into effect that we could take up to 5%.
Okay. The retained fund balances were discussed at the joint board as well, and none of that was brought up by Mr. Waring on Monday night. So, but that's a question I think we definitely want to know what the rules are around the retained fund balance. So.
And so my next question, and it's just frustrating. And then Dr. Hens is nothing against you. It's just like,
No, I completely.
There's been a pattern. There's been a flow. Ms. Young was on the same page with Dr. Runing, and we're like, hey, come up with a budget and we'll look at it. And if it's not, so Ms. Young, has that been something that's been started? I guess I'll throw the ball in your court, because it's kind of like we kind of
I have asked Mr. Waring, let's get a schedule together for each of the 3 districts and start that conversation. He and I have not had a meeting with Ms. Young to actually start. I mean, I have not, to start hashing that out.
We had put as an agenda item for this meeting, and it's under new business, to have a general budget discussion. And I think that our intent 2 weeks ago was to give our input in terms of guidance to the administration. So I think that step 1 is coming tonight. We could do it as part of our VA report, but we have it under new business. So.
Okay.
And to answer Mr. Wells's question, we have, even in the absence of a formal schedule issued from the SAU, the school has begun our typical budget process following our typical schedule. So teachers are already working on their requests. Departments are already working on identifying needs and requests. So we're underway, and then can adjust as guidance comes.
Thank you.
I have Shane, I have a meeting on Tuesday with Nate and Glenn both to start planning the SAU budgeting process. So.
Okay. Dr. Henson, did you get our question down, or do you want me to
yeah, no, I got your question down.
Okay. Well, we're on page 10 of our packet. Does anybody have any other questions about the 2019-2020 report? Okay. Then our monthly revenue report, it's 2020, 2021. So this is current. We're pretty early in the year, but this is our page 11. Does anybody have any questions here? Okay, moving on. Our monthly expenditure report for this year, that's on our page 12. And this is just a summary again. It's not the every line. Does anybody have any questions here?
No.
No. Okay. Following that, we have the detailed report. If there's anything that jumped out at you, I'm just gonna, I guess, take the report as a whole rather than line by line because it's quite a few pages long.
Yeah, we're so early in the season for this anyway. So yeah, I think we're good on it.
Okay. So then we'll move on in the packet. We're on page 21. This is the treasurer cash flow report for fiscal year, our current fiscal year. Again, it's early. Shows us up through August 31st and where our actual bank statements are at. Does anybody have questions here?
So I know really love this report because it estimates that we're going to be over budget, which is good. That's something I like to see. That's good. Thank you, Mr. Warren.
Okay. Yeah, it's okay. Moving on, it's the next page says cash balances. I think that's probably connected to the cash flow report. There's a couple of those. I don't understand the difference between page 22 and page 23. So it looks to be the same to me. But if there's any questions there, page 22 or page 23.
No.
Okay, page 24, we have our grants, our grant tracking report. Does anybody have any questions here? Okay, our next grant tracking report. This one's Title II, Part A. I guess the first one was REAP. I didn't realize what that was at first. So we had REAP, and then now we're on the Title II, Part A. We have a grant report for that continues for a few pages. And then we have on page 28, Title 4A. That looks like it's on page 28 and 29. Any questions there?
No.
Okay. Northwood Title I, Part A. I'm on page 30. That goes on to page, oh no, that doesn't, that's just on page 30. Okay. IDEA and preschool for Northwood. This is on page 31. Grant tracking there. Are there any questions here? All right, then our last report from the business administrator is on page 32. This is our COVID-19 financial impact report. This is ongoing and continually updated, but do people have questions on this report here that we'd like to pass along to Mr. Warren? Okay. If anyone reviews the material further and comes up with questions, please email, and then we'll go back to our scheduling and I guess our how we want to receive reports in the future. So,
hey, Brian.
Yes.
So I'm just confused. Oh, no, I figured it out. I'm good. It's just really tiny writing. It took me a while. I'm getting old. Yeah, no, I'm good.
That's the COVID-19 report. It is.
Yeah, I was just looking. I was trying to see why we had so many food service costs, but then I saw with fine print the dates, so I'm good.
Okay. There was another. Dr. Henson can she said she'd either bring it up in her correspondence or in the BA report. Do you want whatever you want to do? It was about a IRS, I believe. I'll let you talk, but it's from a few years ago and it's coming to light now. So
yeah, we discovered, Glenn brought to my attention that there was an IRS payment that was being made late. We received a notice of penalty from the IRS, and I can't remember the exact amount. It's a matter of a few $1,000s. It's from the previous fiscal year. And so he wanted me to let the board know that we had received that notice. And then the Title II grant allocation reduction that you may already be aware of, but we have had a decrease for Northwood School District of almost 50% of the Title II grant award. And I have reached out to Headmaster Smith at Co-Brown Northwood Academy to talk with him and to let him know about it, because we are billed, Northwood is billed for Title II grant expenses by CBNA, and we wanted to make them aware that we had experienced this reduction. The way that Glenn had described it to me, I'm gonna see if I can find, I asked him to write it up for me in an email. Yeah, and Derry is in the same situation with Pinkerton Academy, but the Title II allocation went from 53,000 and change to 25,000 in 1 year. That's 47% decrease. And the allocation is based on Northwood student residents only, but we're required to provide Co-Brown with an allocation based on their total population, which includes students who are not necessarily from Northwood. This affects us in Northwood also in Title IV and the CARES grant. And so I have had a conversation with Headmaster Brown to let him know that we've experienced this reduction and to ask if they would consider reducing the amount of the requests that they're sending to us. Under the law, they don't have to do that. Glenn has spoken to the Department of Education to confirm that. I had a good conversation with the headmaster. I told him I would summarize the content of our conversation in an email and follow up with him. So I'm waiting to hear from him whether they will accommodate our request that their grant allocation coming from us would mirror the reduction in funding that we've received in Northwood.
Can I ask a question about that? I appreciate the correspondence very much, and the question you're asking to Co-Brown. I think that's definitely in our interest, and thank you. Just about the rule change in general, is that because in Northwood, Co-Brown resides within the town of Northwood, or does that affect also, say, like the other districts that we work with that also send students to Co-Brown?
My understanding is that it's because of the zip code.
Okay, so it's not, yeah, it's a unique issue for us.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and so Northwood is funding Co-Brown students in Title II, Title IV, and the CARES grant who may not be residents of Northwood.
Okay.
But we checked that with the state, and they said yes, and that was also the situation in Pinkerton Academy with Derry.
Okay.
So hopefully we can navigate it with personal relationship and influence. That's my hope.
Yeah, I feel like about a year ago, we were in a similar situation. I don't know if it was these same titles, but I remember getting an update from Mr. Byrne regarding some student services. It was like a similar rule change in a similar situation. And I don't remember the specifics. I wish I could be more helpful, but I'm sure he's aware at this point anyways, because of his position in the SAU, but.
Yeah, but we're basically the zip code pass-through agent.
Yeah, okay. I looked back at the email. The IRS penalty was $2,774.24. And I didn't reread exactly what it was, but it's something stemming back, I think, from 2017-ish. I don't want to say exactly, but and then it was just, there was a request to an appeal, I suppose, and then we were just notified that was denied. So that's a bill coming to us. Is that the gist of that again?
Yeah, that's a good summary.
Okay. Does anybody else have questions about those two bits from Dr. Henson? Okay, I just want to note, I got a text message, and it looks like she's gone, that Stephanie had to leave the meeting. So she is at 9:32. Stephanie Arroyo's has left. So, okay, guys, I think we need to figure out a BA schedule. I don't think we need to do it this second, if that's okay with everyone. Good. We're going to move on to policies. Dr. Henson, do you want to, did I miss? No, I'm still right. Do you want to talk us through, because this was kind of the same thing as what we did at the joint board?
Yep. The New Hampshire School Board Association has strongly recommended that all local school boards, just as an initial emergency measure, waive your second reading of policy ACAC, which is your Title IX sexual harassment policy. It is numerous documents, and we can revisit that policy in 30 days, which gives us time to get our policy committee up and running. We can review it, modify it to local requirements, but they recommend in the interim that we go ahead and adopt it exactly as written by NHSBA as a protective measure, because there have been changes in the way that Title IX and sexual harassment is being handled. And I'm already getting notices from different law firms offering training for your Title IX coordinator. And Nate attended right before I came on board. Nate had attended a session at New Hampshire School Administrators Association where they talked about this. So I do strongly recommend that the board waive the second reading and go ahead and adopt ACAC Title IX in its entirety for 30 days, and the policy committee then to revisit this policy and put it through the appropriate steps, if anyone would like to so move.
Yeah, I will move that we adopt ACAC immediately and review with the policy committee, and return our draft to the school board as soon as possible.
Can I ask why?
Yeah, it's a very unusual request. The concern at NHSBA, the way that it was communicated to me when I spoke to the policy attorney, and this echoed what Nate had heard from NHSAA, is that there are gaps in almost all the local school boards' current and sexual harassment policies. So adoption of NHSBA's language protects us in the interim while we revisit and review our own and get new training for our Title IX coordinators.
And which I totally understand, I totally get, but it just seems odd.
It is weird.
Coming like at this time and moment, it's almost like they're prepping for something that we don't know about. And I wish Stephanie was here, because she would probably have some little insight on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm okay to push it to second reading to, but I would strongly recommend to have the policy committee look at this as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's part of the motion I made, for sure.
Cool. I'm good.
Okay, would you like to second that then?
Yes, I will.
Okay, so that's Brian Winslow and Shane Wells with the second, and this is for policy ACAC to be immediately adopted, and then as soon as possible to be reviewed by the policy committee and brought back to the board. Are there any questions, Shirley or Jessica?
Nope.
Okay, I'm gonna roll call through. Brian Winslow is a yes. Shane Wells,
Yes.
Shirley Glennon,
Yes.
Jessica Boudreau.
Yes.
Okay, great. Also in our packet is, I think tied to that is a suggestion to withdraw policy JBAA. That's our current sexual harassment policy. That's for sexual harassment for DASH students. And also GBAA, that's our sexual harassment employees and staff. And my understanding is that ACAC policy covers both of those, and that's why we withdraw these two. So I make a motion to withdraw policy JBAA and GBAA.
I'll second it.
Okay, and does anyone have questions about this withdrawal? Okay, Brian Winslow is a yes. Shane Wells,
Yes.
Shirley Glennon,
Yes.
Jessica Boudreau.
Yes.
Those two are withdrawn. I'm going to ask us to table JLF, that's reporting child abuse or neglect. If you recall, we moved that to second reading at our last meeting, and Ms. Arroyo had wanted to contact, I forget exactly who, but Will, somebody, a lawyer, just to double check on some language. She shared with me that she's not been able to make that contact yet. She's reached out and hasn't been able to connect. She wanted to table this anyways, and then she's left the meeting. So if that's okay with you, I'd like to table that until our next meeting.
Yep.
And that leaves us with FMLA leave. We have a first reading, so I make a motion to move policy GCCBC FMLA leave to second reading.
I'll second.
Okay, and this is a new policy. I just want to see if I can find our page on it. If anyone has any questions. It starts in us, it looks like it starts on page 39 in our packet. So I'm okay with this as it is. We'll get a chance to take another pretty close look at it before adopting it, if that's okay with everyone else. Okay,
Yeah.
then I'll go in a different order. So Jessica Boudreau,
Yes.
Shirley Glennon,
Yes.
Shane Wells,
I'm sorry, did you say table it or adopt it?
to move it to second reading.
Yes.
I'm sorry, it's getting late and I'm trying to get us out of here. I'm trying to recall who was our second on that.
It was either Shirley or Jessica.
I don't even remember. You can say it was me.
Okay, so
I'm
Shirley
getting
Glennon
really
was the
tired.
second.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, no, it's one of those meetings. Okay, and Brian Winslow is a yes. Did I get Shirley?
Yep. I'm a yes.
Turning into a Saturday Night Live skit. Sorry, guys.
We.
Okay, that's it for policies, I believe, for now, unless I missed something there. So we can, at 9:30, 9:40, we can get to our
9:40.
superintendent's report. Awesome. Dr. Henson.
Thank you. Y'all can just call me Dr. Chop Liver here. And I'm not going to put you through my PowerPoint. In the joint board packet that went out, I didn't put it into this packet because everybody got it in the joint board. I had my 30-day report, which I highlighted for everyone, items that are still in process or have yet to be begun in the first 30 days. And the first 30 days for any new superintendent are generally getting up to speed on learning everything there is to know about all of the different local systems, getting up to speed on any litigation, looking at any immediate financial concerns, a lot of business type things. I am very hopeful in the second 30 days that I will be spending more time with Ms. Sholand and with your building leaders and learning a lot more about the way that you all are delivering your remote instructional program. Learning quite a bit about your assessment, your internal assessment and benchmarking. And I did just want to mention, I know Brian had asked the question earlier, generally high stakes assessments for state testing purposes, which are used to set a lot of different federal things that the school is going to be eligible for. Generally, online testing is considered not to be valid for that. And so you were asking about bringing the children on campus in previous years before the pandemic broke out. Even cyber charter schools, statewide online school programs would rent space or work with communities where their children lived and bring children in and have school staff proctor, or they would hire retired teachers to do it, but proctor those exams in person. I would be quite surprised if states relaxed that requirement for high stakes spring state testing. I haven't heard anything yet from New Hampshire on that. It would surprise me if they did that. So just know that I think that's probably what will end up happening in the spring. But I'll let y'all know as soon as I learn about that. But I do expect my second 30 days to be spent with reviewing historic trends in academic data and also reviewing trends since the spring with academic achievement among the kids, and particularly looking at high-risk groups of kids as well. So I'm interested to learn more about how you all are doing things in Northwood with that in that regard. In the personnel report, I've got 3 different documents, and I want to make sure I don't miss any of them. I know we had, I think 2 went out this afternoon.
Yeah.
We have a personnel report that involves stipends for kindergarten screening, community connection, and technology planning. And the community connection would come out of the CARES ESSER grant. The kindergarten screening and technology planning would come out of local operating budget. We have a nomination for a paraprofessional at $13.55 per hour. That will come out of local operating budget. And then I'm just going to look on my Word document. We have a third. Well, that looks like the. Jocelyn, did I get them all?
I think so.
I think we did. Again, I've got documents, and I've got on paper, and then I've got documents that came in email. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. But Mr. Chairman, I would like to submit that slate of nominees as a group for approval.
Sure. I think we need to approve the nomination, and I pulled it up. So this is for Hannah Hillman as paraeducator, $13.55 an hour out of the local operating budget. So I make a motion to approve that nomination.
I'll second that.
And let me go through real quick. So we have Jessica Boudreau,
Yes.
Shirley Glennon.
Yes, and for Alex, I seconded that. It was Shirley, sorry.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. I can't see the screen and read my email. So
No,
Shane
that's
Wells.
okay. It was my bad.
Yes.
No, you got it. You got it. And I'm a yes as well. Brian Winslow's a yes. So that nomination of Hannah Hillman is unanimous. And then all the other ones I believe are stipends. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And I think we take those as informational. Is that also correct, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I think we're good on personnel then.
Okay, good. And there are no resignations to accept in this board meeting. I already shared with you the correspondence that we had received regarding the IRS notice of penalty. The USDA waiver of school lunch fees is going to continue through December 20th or until the funds are exhausted. But the student services director and I talked today. My concern is that if we're not submitting documentation of eligibility for free and reduced lunch, there's a lot of funding that is measured by your documentation. And right now that's all on hold, but we want to continue to request families to fill out the eligibility forms. It's a little bit harder to get them to because everybody's getting free lunch right now, but we're going to continue to work on maintaining that documentation, because we don't want to be caught with our pants down later that we weren't keeping the documentation and then needing to submit it. And then the final item that I have for you, Mr. Chairman, is the capital improvement plan items for fiscal year 2021. And those include an update of the upper playground, and the budgeted amount is $80,000, as well as the computer replacement plan for this fiscal year, which is budgeted at $36,000. And I am unsure of your process, if this is something that is referred to the facilities committee or if this is something that's handled in the full board.
I'm unsure of the process too. I think we'll probably discuss it next as we discuss general budget discussion. So if that's okay with everyone.
Mm-hmm. I had a question about the free and reduced lunch form. Did we give that out electronically for people to access, or can we put it through Alma if we need authentication? I don't-
That's a question
that.
for Nate, but I'll be sure and find out.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's a good question.
And we have listed correspondence, but we did some correspondence earlier about the business administrator. Was there any other correspondence, or did I miss that?
No, I don't have any additional correspondence.
Okay. Are there any other questions about the superintendent report? Okay, thank you. Going to move on to new business and general budget discussion. I think historically we've just tried to give some overall, I guess, goals or approach that we'd like to see the administrators take in crafting our budget. So I have a few thoughts, but does anybody else want to offer up what they'd like to see in the budgeting process, how they think we should approach things this year, if differently than other years?
I'd rather, let's hear what you got to say first, Brian.
Okay. My thought is there's an economic crisis, and we hopefully aren't going to feel it too bad here, but I know some people already are. We don't know if it's going to continue to get worse or turn around quickly, but I think we want to be pretty conservative as we craft our budget. I don't think I guess my thought is if times are pretty tough in March at the ballot box, then if we are asking for much, then it's just going to be denied by the town. And so typically what we do is we put together a budget, and then kind of, the last week or so, it feels like we just make sure that we have a default budget in place. But it might be worth knowing what our default budget number would be earlier this year, and try to aim for a number pretty close to that. Because I think revenues are going to be down. I think we've heard that in the town. I think there's going to be a heavier burden. I think we want to be very aware of the situation that a lot of people are finding themselves in, and we want to do what we can to, when times are good, it's okay, but when times are tight, I think we want to be careful, and I think we want to be careful this year.
So I echo that, Brian, as well. I think anything that has to do with the CIP, we push off. $36,000 for a replacement of computers. We could probably push off, and the playground, absolutely push off. But if we do need the computers, just keep in line, because I do know the technology plan and the amount of technology that we're using. If we can use our capital improvement, our fund balances that we have. So if we could somehow, if it can fit into there, into one of those, that would be nice. I think that's the time to use those types of funds in crisis like these, especially with the technology. I don't want to skip a year on that. $36,000 for computers when we can actually, take it out of a different fund and not find it in our budget. Because you got to remember, we're probably going to ask for another janitor. If we go to hybrid, say second trimester, we'll probably need additional nursing support. All the things that we talked about when we were trying to go hybrid.
Right.
We're going to try to find all this money. And another thing is too, and the reason why I was very passionate about having the business administrator at our meetings, because I want to know if 2.5% is gonna of our end of year budget last year, or 5% is gonna help us, right? Because that's a huge difference that we can give back to the town of the 2.5%. If we can only take 2.5, right, and not take the whole 5 and give that back to the town to help offset costs, we're doing them a favor. So there's a lot of money questions and different angles that we can approach. And I really, really need the business administrator at our meetings for those questions. I know we can give them answers, but this is when things get worked out.
Yeah.
Well, and
Okay,
I know we're gonna discuss this further later, but I'm flexible to move to Wednesdays if that's a better night. I don't know if that's better for people. I don't know, and I don't know how that works with everything, but I'll just put that out there.
okay. It'll have to be offsetting the, I think the Nottingham.
Nottingham.
board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I have Nottingham and Stratford on Wednesdays.
yeah, and they're offset, so you're every Wednesday
Yeah.
pretty much at this point.
Mm.
Okay,
And can I just, I guess, to encompass the whole, everything that we're talking about and not get into weeds of things, I guess our guidance to Ms. Young and the administration is that we need to be super budget friendly. I think, Brian, when you said, the whole default budget thing, we need to find out what that is, find out what our operating cost is, what additional costs is there's going to be. And anything that we think that we need, maybe we need to make a decision to say, maybe we just don't need that. So I guess at this point forward, just to think about being budget friendly.
okay. So we're looking at another janitorial position, and I think we're probably, I mean, this would be helpful. Do we want to plan on having that position through next year too? Same thing with the one that we just talked about. I think maybe we want to see, I guess what our budget would look like with or without that, and then we'll be able to make that decision. I mean, at this point, I'm assuming that, assuming the worst, plan for the worst and hope for the best, that we might kind of be in a very similar situation a year from now. Hopefully not, but we still might need those services. So we'll want to see if that's in the budget. And probably the same thing with, if we look at having, I think we decided on a medical assistant position. I forget exactly what it was, but so I guess we'll want to see how we can fit those into the budget, and if we can still come in close to the default number. The computer plan, I think that's our 5-year plan, our regular plan, where we replace about 20% of our computers every year. So every 5 years, our computers are replaced. So that cost is $36,000. Or was it that the in our capital improvement plan we had an additional computer cost? Do you?
No, so the capital improvement plan reflects the typical 20% replacement of technology.
Right.
The only thing I would ask the board to consider is that whatever we do in the 21-22 budget for technology funding would then impact the default budget for the 22-23 year. So if we take it out for next year and we end up with a default the following year, then we don't have a technology budget 2 years in a row.
Yeah, and I don't personally think that technology is the area we really want to make a lot of cuts to, but but I do feel like maybe, and Mr. Robert mentioned something too about revisiting the technology plan in general to see if it was still meeting our needs. So maybe, I guess, just considering revisions to our technology plan along with our big picture of our budget. And I know that's a big ask, but these are extraordinary times. So
We're gonna need whatever we can from technology resources. I mean, that's what we're relying on to even make school work right now, right? I mean, of course, and our teachers and everybody who's in it, but like without that piece.
Yep, I do. I think, first and foremost, we need to have a technology plan that meets our needs. But then I think right behind that, on the heels of that, is we just want to be as fiscally responsible as we can be. So they're going together. In terms of, I think Shane mentioned the other piece on the capital improvement plan was the upper playground. I mean, I'm all about kids being active, but at the moment we don't have kids using the playground. So I think we can probably hold on that, or adjust that in our capital improvement plan if you all agree.
I do.
Does that give you guys general guidance? Is there more things people are thinking of? It looks like, Jessica, did you just unmute to chime in?
I was just needing to agree.
Okay, great. Is that a decent amount of budget and guidance at this point? Okay.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of clarity.
Okay, awesome. It's new business. It's not listed on our agenda, but we do have 2 memorandums, one from the teachers union and one from the paraprofessionals union. It was mentioned, we discussed in a bit of the detail in our non-public. Would you guys, I think we need to vote on those tonight. Do you guys want to do that at this point?
Yep.
Okay. Miss Boudreaux, I'm going to give you the honor of putting forward motions because you were on the negotiations committee.
I put a motion forward for the board to approve the MOA with the Northwood Teachers Association and the MOA with the Paraprofessionals Association.
Great. It was a little jarbled on my end, but I heard a motion for the board to approve both of the MOAs with the teachers union and with the paraprofessionals union.
Sorry about that.
No, it's not your fault. It's technology. Does anybody want a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, so that was Jessica Boudreaux with the motion, Shirley Glennon with the second. I think we asked our questions and got answers before. So is everybody okay with a roll call?
Yep.
My only question is, I prefer if we do them separately.
Sure, it's fine with me. If it's, if you guys want-
We've never done both of them together ever. I think we should do them separately.
Fine,
Okay.
Shane, fine.
Well, if you'd like to do,
If you do them both together, right? If you do them both together, right, and say next week I want to bring it back up for discussion, we have to bring
point.
both back up. So
From
Okay,
a parliamentary
so we'll-
standpoint, you really should treat them separately. Sorry.
Yeah, no, thank you
okay,
for
I'm
bringing
just
that up,
being-
Shane.
It's
That's
okay.
that's a really good
Tired.
point. Okay, so we'll just need you to withdraw your motions and your seconds, and then we'll do it again.
I withdraw.
I withdraw my motion.
Great.
And I'll put forward a motion to approve an MOA with the New Hampshire Teachers Association.
I'll second.
Okay, and so that was, again, Jessica Boudreaux, a motion to approve the MOA with the Teachers Association, and Shirley Glennon with the second. I'm going to roll call through. Brian Winslow is a yes. Shirley Glennon,
Yes.
Jessica Boudreaux,
Yes.
and Shane Wells.
yes,
Okay, so I have a DocuSign copy already of the Teachers Association MOA. I will go ahead and sign that on behalf of the board. And we have one more.
Thank you. I'm putting forward a motion to approve another MOA with the Northwood Paraprofessionals Association.
I'll second.
Okay, again, Jessica Boudreaux for the MOA to approve the MOA with the Paraprofessionals Association, and a second with Shirley Glennon. Brian Winslow is a yes. Shane Wells,
yes.
Jessica Boudreaux,
Yes.
and Shirley Glennon.
Yes.
And I will go ahead. I don't know if I have that one as a DocuSign yet, but I'm sure I can get that. I'm sure that'll be coming to me really soon. I'll double check on that, and then I'll email Mary at the SAU if I need it. But either way, I'll sign both of those on behalf of the board. Thank you. I'd like to extend an extreme amount of gratitude to both Jessica Boudreaux and Stephanie Arroyo. That was a lot of hours of negotiating, and my understanding is it was done very civilly and respectfully from both sides, and we've come to an agreement. So yeah, thank you. Also, the administrators that helped out with that, and also to both of the unions and the representatives from the teachers union and from the paraprofessionals union. So I think we're all in the best interest of our students at this time. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, one more new business item, NHSBA resolutions. I just put this here because I shared at our last meeting that there was a call for resolutions to the delegate assembly. I don't have any plans to put time into drafting one, but I just wanted to double check if anybody else did. Just we can submit it to the board and we can make a decision on it. Old business parking lot. Let me get to the page here.
Mr. Winslow, can I just ask a clarifying question?
Of course.
The MOAs both reference the revised calendar. I'm just wondering if you want to consider that the new calendar has been approved, or if you want to do that separately.
Yeah, let's just do that separately. So just to make sure we're clear about that. I think there was an email that came out again today with another calendar, or another copy of the calendar. Did everyone here have a chance to view that?
I did.
Okay, and are we comfortable voting on it?
Yes.
I'll make
Okay.
a motion to approve the new calendar as revised.
Second.
Okay, Brian Winslow's a yes. Shirley Glennon,
Yes.
Shane Wells,
Yes.
Jessica Boudreau. And that was a yes. A little hard to hear, but yes. No, it's not your fault. It's just, we can hear it. I just say it again, just in case somebody else has a hard time with it. So, okay, Ms. Young, thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate that. School board newsletter. I think we've all just been pretty overwhelmed, but that's something we kind of want to think about it. And we never have like a deadline for it or anything like that. But at some point, with getting back into school and with everything that's happened, I think some effort on that at some point, I think would be good for our community relationship.
Yeah, Stephanie and I did touch base on that. We just both have been too swamped to get to it, but it's on our radar to get to as soon as we can.
Okay, and I did, thank you, and then also, a little bit of self-preservation. We've been going through a lot, but it is what it is. It's what we're doing. So, school safety is just this ongoing discussion. I think we're taking some pretty appropriate safety measures with our efforts to bring students back onto campus. We've been getting updates about that and appreciate it. And we're looking forward to giving students more opportunities to have social emotional connections next week. Looking forward to it. Our strategic plan goals. So again, we held off on this for September just because it's so busy. I would personally be comfortable holding off for another month as we're looking at, our budget, our capital improvement things, our technology plan. I feel like if you all are okay on just putting on hold, this is a conversation I don't want to stop having. I just want to be aware of everyone's effort level and ability. Is that okay with everyone?
Yep.
It's been said ability. It's not ability. It's just, you know what I'm saying. It's late. It's
capacity. It's capacity.
Yeah, we don't need to do this next month. We need to do it this year. We don't need to do it next month. So is everybody okay with holding off for another month on that?
I guess so, Brian.
Wonderful. Okay. Our timeline for September. Did we board policy books to staff unions? That's online. Review board goals. We decided not to for this month. We did just discuss our budget preparations and our budget development, and I'm going to make the assumption there are no unique impact award applications at this time.
That is correct.
That is correct. For October, begin budget preparation. So we're having that conversation. Superintendent evaluation. I think at this point, we just start to talk about the process and the goals a little bit. It's, if my understanding is correct, we're not doing the evaluation in October. I think that's kind of early in the year at this point. So I have to, I guess I don't have the institutional knowledge to know that process really well. So I'll do a little
do I get evaluated by each of the three boards separately? Is that
I think it's wonderful. I think you do, and you get a joint board evaluation.
okay?
So, Dr. Henson, there's a policy on it, so you can look it up and you can see what it's all about. I'm not a big fan of it. I've always wanted to change it, but it is what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's how it goes. Again, I always get confused with this. I haven't been doing this long enough, even though this is in my third year. So I'm going to do a little bit of research on that process so that we can do that well through the year. List of winter coaches. I guess we'll at some point have to have a conversation about winter sports. We approved fall sports, but that was 2 outdoor sports, as I recall. So we'll have that conversation, but I think we probably want to still be looking for coaching because that has to happen now. Bus ridership, we just get information that I don't know how that's going to go in this situation. Our preschool lease, and again, if we have any unique impact awards. So that's what we've got coming up for next month. Committee updates. We had a bit of a facilities committee update. Were there any other committees that have met?
Yeah.
No,
Don't think so.
I don't think so either. The policy committee is working on, I think I saw a date in an email. So we should have an update from the policy committee at our next meeting. It is being resurrected. Future meetings. So, sorry, future agenda items. I didn't make a list as we were going through here. We had a few questions for the business, or one question for the business administrator. Is there anything else that came through that we need to discuss at our next meeting?
Yeah, there was a bunch of them, and I just can't think of them right now.
We talked about, well, it's going to be, we talked a little bit about what we're going to get in a curriculum director's report, but that's a standard part of the agenda, so we don't need to add that separately.
I mean, a lot of it had to do around the business administrator.
Yeah, I think we were tabling a few of those items on the, from the facilities committee. So we're looking for information about how our reserve funds can be used. But that could, okay, so I'm gonna put that as an item. So capital reserve fund, no, it's not capital reserve fund, ground and maintenance, I think it is. Grounds and maintenance.
Yeah, if we could use those for like the thermometer and the UV light.
I'll look, Dr. Henson, I'm sure you have it, but I'll try to get you the exact name of the reserve fund.
Okay.
Because I have it but just not here. So, and then that might help with answering that question. And then we wanted to get, we had tabled the UV light. The question I had about that was with, I guess, a price tag on the 4 medium-sized ones. So
I think one thing we should keep in mind with that, though, just so I don't lose it from my brain again, is that having that certain number was also part of how they could complete the rotation with the staff. So part of the reason that certain number of filters was budgeted was to be able to do that within one shift. So let's just keep that in mind.
Sure. So I think I'm just going to put on UV light discussion.
The caveat off the UV light, I know we talked about, did we vote to go ahead and approve a janitor?
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did.
I
We didn't do a roll call vote. I think because we had already approved that position in a motion and it hasn't been filled, we just gave the directive to go ahead and post for the position. And we did also approve, but not through a vote, but just verbally approve the water bottle filler for the kindergarten wing. So I have grounds and maintenance funds question, and I have UV light discussion.
maybe if possible, I know it's not probably going to be possible, but the default budget, get that as soon as possible, just to have that out there, knowing that, hey, let's start looking at what our default budget would be.
Yeah, so maybe
it's early. I know it's early, but I just still that's I think, Brian, when you mentioned, I think that's gonna be huge.
Yeah. No, I think that, I mean, that's kind of the do not exceed number almost. I mean, not exactly, but it's kind of like the number we're going to aim for. So we do want to get a number, I guess, if not the full, obviously not the full default budget document, because that's rather lengthy. But if we could get an estimate on what our number would be, is that what that's going to help?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. So I'm just going to put in, and I mean, I think it's on our timeline anyways, is just ongoing budget discussion. So we'll just make sure we do that budget and default budget.
And I just, only reason why I'm saying that is just like, if we're not gonna be able to have Mr. Waring here with us, if we change a meeting or whatever to have him here, but if we can't have him here, we need to get him direct questions, so we have that for our meeting, if not be, and then if another thing, if not, Mr. Waring, if we could, if Nate could be here as well, just because of institutional knowledge of knowing the budget, and so then maybe that would be as helpful.
Yeah, traditionally through usually later in the process, but through the budgeting process, we do like a work session where we hammer out quite a few things, but it might be worth doing a special meeting, because if he's not going to be able to be here on the first and third Thursday, maybe the second Thursday of the month, and it would just be for the budget discussions only, you know. I don't think we have to do that between now and October 1st, but you know, maybe we'll discuss that. So I'll put business administrators report schedule as an item.
And also maybe another on the agenda item, I just remembered the hybrid committee's meeting next Friday, if we could get an update.
Okay.
Jocelyn, what time is that meeting?
9 a.m.
9 a.m. Okay.
And if, as I recall, it's you, Ms. Glendon, and it's Ms. Arroyo.
Yes, I'm gonna do my best to be there, but I work during the day, so I'm not sure. I'll have to see how things are going.
Okay. You've been doing a lot. We've all been doing a lot. Is there anybody else that could definitely make that meeting? Not that I want to push you out of it, but
No, that's okay.
Dr. Henson?
I'm planning to be there.
Great, good. I guess I can't because of my work schedule. I don't know, Shane or Jessica, if that's something you could do or would be interested.
I could run it by my chief to see if I'm on duty.
Okay.
So, but I'll see if I can jump in on the meeting or not. So.
Okay, I'm gonna, I guess, just officially name you as an alternate, and I'll let you and Miss Glendon figure out that.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. I mean, we're all doing a lot, so I
Yeah,
appreciate
sorry. I just this summer, you guys know, started a new full-time job. So Thursdays are the one day I have flexibility during the day. Other than that, it's kind of tough.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't at all. So we appreciate all that everyone's doing here. We're working hard together. So okay, I think that's our list. I have grounds maintenance funds question, the UV light discussion, budget and default budget discussion, BA report schedule, and an update from the hybrid committee. So that's a pretty good list. I'm sure more things will come up, unless Shane, were you going to say something else?
No, I said no. I was gonna say that's a good list. That's I just wanted to mention it before I forget. We're talking about my daughter not being in elementary school anymore. I like to be on the on-call list for notifications and getting the Laker, and also any correspondence or memos that go out to family members, that I'm on that list as well, because I don't get them and I need to get them, please.
Maybe just to make it easy, going forward, would it just make sense to put the Northwood School Board on that list? And that way, whenever school board members change, you know, then that's just kind of a practice that we could adopt, and we would all be informed all the time.
So that's how it used to be.
Okay.
But then there was some people that didn't like some of the alerts, and it changed and stuff like that. And so, but yeah, I think it would be nice to, I mean, how much harm would it be if you guys got double emails, right?
Yeah, I get
most of
double
us are
emails
probably
all the
okay
time.
with it. Yeah.
Okay, so if you guys are okay with that, can we just, is it Mr. Robert, we should make the request to add the Northwood School Board email to the alert list, emailing list? Okay, thank you, appreciate that. And Ms. Boudreaux, I hope you enjoy reading the Laker. Okay, future meetings, we have October 1st at 6:30, regular joint board meeting. As far as we know, that will be in the library. You know, we'll explain the situation at the beginning of the meeting. I will at that point obviously be past the 2-week mark and should be able to be in the library. I intend to be there unless something comes up. And we'll do that as a hybrid meeting because some people will be remote. October 12th is a joint board meeting, and those we decided at the last joint board meeting to continue to do those remotely. I think due to everyone in the 3 towns, that's just a lot more feasible. October 15th is another regular joint board meeting. At this point, if there's anyone here from the public, we are able to take closing public comments.
It looks like we have only one person on the phone right now.
Oh, you are hardcore. Let's ask them.
That's phone number ending in 414. If you do have a public comment, would you mind toggling yourself off mute there, *6, and let us know.
It's hard when you're asleep.
No, it moved for a second. The number did on you. Here we go.
I'm all set, thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. Would any board member like to address the board?
Yeah, if we have long meetings like this, we get no public comment, so.
Well, we didn't at the beginning either, so it's got to be because everyone is so thrilled with the work we're doing. Okay. I don't think we have a need for a non-public. We did that. We had a few things we had to take care of before to run this meeting appropriately. So that's all done. Unless anybody has anything else I'm not aware of.
Yes, just that thing we mentioned in non-public about, and I'm not gonna go into detail, but about having 3 people be able to make the decision. Is that something that, Brian, are you gonna address with later on?
Stan, I'm not sure what you're talking about. Why don't you call us back into non-public? I'm sorry.
Yeah, all right. I think we should.
Okay. So what provision is this going to be? I'm not sure exactly. Is this going to be under C perhaps?
What was C?
C is, I got to look it up to get it right. C is matters which, if discussed in public, would likely adversely affect the reputation or
Yes.
other than a member of a body. Okay.
C. Yep.
C. Great. Okay. So do you want to make the motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion to go non-public under Article C.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so that's Shane Wells and a second by Shirley Glennon. We'll roll call in. Brian Winslow is a yes. Shirley Glennon.
I'm a yes. Do we want to keep the admin on or do we want to let them go?
Yes, I think they, except, I guess only Miss Young would be the one that needs to be available.
Okay. Let me finish the roll call and then I'll do a quick statement about whatever. So Brian was a yes, Shirley was a yes, Shane Wells.
Yes.
Jessica Boudreau.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to go into non-public. I don't anticipate any votes being taken. We will come out of non-public to adjourn. And I think we're going to keep Dr. Henson and Miss Young, and I think everyone else can go. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, correct.
Okay. Great.
Steve, if you'll make me the host.
Hi, guys. Okay.
You're muted.
Steve, you're muted, so I don't know what you're saying.
All right.
Maybe that's on purpose.
Just pausing the recording and stopping the live stream and
Okay.